Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome, everybody, to Phoenix Down Radio, episode 190. Not only that, our 8th anniversary at Phoenix Down Radio. Yes, we have been here for 8 years. Can you believe it? You better,
no, not really.
But it's true. I'm Klauss Nightbringer. Joining me is Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, how are you doing today?
It is warm here. I dislike it. But otherwise, not too bad.
We had our warm last week with temperatures in excess of 100 degrees for the Labor Day weekend. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
It was my girlfriend's birthday last week, and we went to the Renaissance Festival here in Minnesota, and we went to an event called the Feast of Fantasy, which was a lot of fun. And in most cases, I would have absolutely 100% enjoyed it without any issues. But when the weather is 98 degrees with like 90% relative humidity and the sun bearing down on you like the seventh circle of hell, not as much fun. But I mean, we did it.
Renaissance is great and all, but we have air conditioning now.
Yeah, but they didn't in the Renaissance time.
Right.
So we didn't have
anything.
All we had
like
was,
for anyone who's like, oh, it would be so great to live in those. No,
it wouldn't.
Have air conditioning now. You don't know what you're talking about.
They had the Black Plague. We have air conditioning, which is better.
Feel like there's a pretty clear winner there.
Yeah, they didn't have a huge hole in the ozone though.
Hey, the hole in the ozone has actually shrunk significantly. It's like a great example to point to of like large scale environmental intervention that actually worked.
Yeah, like a pandemic.
It was getting better before that.
But I mean, that's when it actually had its biggest improvement, I believe, as well as the rest of the climate. Anyway, we're not a climatology. It had been improving
podcast before that, but I mean, we could be.
I don't know if I know enough about climatology to do a whole podcast on it.
It'll be fine.
But I mean, then we, like Nick Nar was saying, like midweek, I woke up, I think it was Thursday, it was 48 degrees, and it was beautiful. I mean, tomorrow we're going to have a high of 71, and that's it. It's going to be glorious.
I was going to say, do you have, like, apple orchards and, like, because, like, I grew up near apple orchards, and one of the big things I remember is just, like, that kind of cold snap is so good for apple production.
It is. Well,
like, you want not just the temperatures to lower, but you want the cold snap.
But yes, we do have a lot of apple orchards up here in Minnesota. I know Washington State has a number of them, but Minnesota is actually the home of a lot of these new specialty apples, like the Honeycrisp, the Zestar.
Oh, right. You have like the where they do the development.
Yep.
Nice.
Those were all developed at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, they should see some good production this year then, hopefully.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of hot summer, so we'll have to see what happens. But regardless, it was a really hot weekend. But we're back to normal, and we're back here celebrating 8 years of podcasting, which is kind of crazy. This one snuck up on me. I kind of forgot that that was going to be this next episode.
According to the CDC, our podcast should now know how to count by 2s and 5s, and will generally know what day of the week it is, though not the full date and year.
So our podcast knows it's Saturday.
Exactly. It can get disappointed when we aren't here and be like, where are Daddy and Daddy? I mean, that implies things that I find hilarious, but I don't know how you're going to do with that.
I've learned to deal with it, Seyrr, just like I've learned to deal with you.
Aww. Wait. You know what? Sure. Aww.
It's 6th Monday, according to Nick Nar. But other than that, it's like I said, I mean, it was a fun time. It's nice to be able to spend time with family and friends, around this time of year. But I will say, year 7 of the podcast was probably the most sporadic that we've experienced.
Yeah.
And it's mainly my fault.
After, like, as something like this goes on for longer and longer, it's like real life complications just start creeping in. It like we are in a very different place from when we first started it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And a job that has a few more responsibilities. You're in a similar book, I believe, at this point.
Yep. I was in a thing that was effectively handling a lot of the logistics for various library programs, and so it was kind of like in the back stuff where I could do a lot of work from home. And I'm now having moved out to one of the branches. I had a story time on Thursday. It went really well. I have not lost my touch. The kids had a great time, but
I mean, it's nice when you can kind of go back to those fun things like that. But I admit,
it was nerve-wracking as hell. I was like, I hope I remember how to do this.
Oh, you're a natural.
It worked out.
You're a natural at that kind of
great.
stuff there, so I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah,
but
the parents were lovely. It was great.
Which some people forget how to act when they're not dealing with other people. So that was a definite concern. I can understand that.
People are complicated. Why do we have to keep dealing with them?
Yeah.
Ugh,
the one
gross.
I mean, people are very complicated, but I will say one of the big issues that is always kind of getting back to the Renaissance Festival, because it's such a huge event and it only happens on weekends, for just a couple months during the year, that stretch of road where the event kind of takes place is in the past has been an absolute hellhole for traffic. I mean, it would be a normal day in LA or San Francisco, but with 5-hour backups, maybe not quite that bad, but
yeah, we're not that bad.
But I mean,
but yeah,
this year was the first time that during the actual Renaissance event, when it's actually happening during the day, there has not been one car of traffic backed up on the highway.
Weird.
Because we went through there on the first weekend, because we went to a bruisology event after the week after the last podcast. We went to the Minnesota Science Museum and we drank a whole bunch of craft beer while looking at science exhibits. It was amazing, just like it was back in February.
Nice.
And as we were going up, that was the first Saturday, and there was nothing. It was just normal. People were driving right through. And then we came back like at noon on Sunday, which would be like the height of people trying to get into the event. Again, nothing.
Weird.
They did a thing where they limited the number of cars that can actually park at the lots there on site, and they started charging for parking.
Interesting.
Because it's one, they wanted to limit the number of vehicles that were there, and they were strongly encouraging people to take park and ride.
Makes sense.
And they charged $5 per person to ride the park and ride, but everybody who did that got a $5 voucher to something at the Renfest. So it was encouraged. Like I said, they strongly encouraged people to utilize that, and it worked flawlessly. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, Nick Nar can confirm he didn't see the bumper to bumper traffic either during Fest, and it's just weird.
Yeah, like it's nice to be like, oh hey, we can just fly down the road, but there is sometimes a bit of like eeriness to it. Like it's good, but in a way that makes you question it a little bit. I do remember once going to back in college. I went to pick someone up at the airport. Realized that the last month they were coming into LAX and not Ontario Airport, and so was flying down the freeways. And this was going through LA. And there was like no traffic. It was like around midnight, but traffic goes late even then. Like there's still at least some cars around. It's well past the statute of limitations. I could say I was going 100 miles an hour.
Oh, Jesus.
I was very worried about being late, and I was young and reckless and stupid.
Oh,
at least one of those adjectives no longer applies.
You're no longer young? Sorry.
But yeah, no, it was just the eeriest thing. Like, I should not be able to drive this fast through here. There shouldn't be too many cars in the way.
Exactly. And Nick Nar agrees you walked into that one, Seyrr.
Oh, I 100% set it up. Come on, give me some credit here.
Also, I was going to say apologies to being a little bit late on the live show here for those of you joining us live here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDown Radio. If you look behind me, you will see
big old tank,
a massive 125-gallon aquarium that I had to get moved down here. I had a friend, former roommate, actually come down and help me. We moved that in. Hadn't seen him in a while, so it was nice. We sat and talked for a while, drank a couple beers, caught up, and it was. And I kind of actually just relaxed and rested a little bit because that thing is like 200 pounds.
Yeah, the water itself is going to be a literal half ton.
Mm-hmm. There's no water in it right now, thankfully, but I'll be filling that up either later tonight or tomorrow and getting it ready because that's going to be Selfie's new home. I'm moving Selfie down here. I think she'll enjoy it. And then you guys will be able to see her during the podcasts. Won't that be neat?
Will she cry about peace and love and then firing a rocket launcher at a train?
Yes.
Excellent.
Also, I wanted a larger tank because I read that goldfish actually do better in groups of at least 3.
Yeah. Like the whole thing of like a single goldfish in a bowl, it's very picturesque, but it's also terrible for the goldfish.
And
they're like a type of, they're like essentially related to carp, aren't they?
A goldfish is a type of carp, and they actually get along with koi. So I believe I'm actually going to purchase a couple of small koi, probably about 4 to 6 inches, maybe something big enough that Sophie can't get it in her mouth.
Yeah,
because as long as
I know that koi. Like, I know they can grow based on the size of their tank, but I'm sure there's an upper limit to them. So as long as you get like a nice small species.
Koi can get to be about this big.
Okay, is that like in all cases? Like, are there different breeds of koi that won't get as big, or?
I'll have to research that a little bit, but I know a lot of pond koi can grow to be about 2.5 to 3 feet long, get into the range of about 60, 70 pounds.
There were koi
like
in the fountain at my undergraduate school. Yep, there were koi in the fountain at my undergraduate school. There was a big scandal where like some students from one of the other colleges got drunk, got one of the koi out of there and barbecued and ate it. Because it was like a several $100,000 fish.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how expensive koi can get?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
it's like anytime tree law comes up, like it's not just you have to replace it with the same kind of thing, a tree that grew to such and such size, or a fish that grew to such and such size.
Yeah,
that's time. That's money.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
I've heard like Japan has a massive koi market. That they,
wouldn't surprise me.
They sell these massive, they have these contests that actually, for like the superior koi kind of thing. And right. I recall there was one it was valued at like, it might not have been $500,000, but it was like $300,000. It was many million yen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of crazy that a fish can be worth that much money, but, these, I don't think we'll get to be that big, but I just want to get some more fish in there. I'm going to let it run for like a week or 2 before I move any fish into it because I want to make sure that the water has a chance to build a little bit of a biosphere and make sure that there's no contaminants or make sure all of the chlorines and different chemicals are worked out of the water. I actually have a number of different chemicals and things that are designed for acclimating a tank.
Aquarium maintenance is pretty involved. Everything I've seen about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate that the current state of Selfie's tank upstairs, it's very self-sustaining at this point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, damn, nice.
So that's why I'm going to take my time, and I'm only going to put about 80 gallons of water in there to start with. Well, I'm going to put less than that because I want to leak test it first, of course.
Makes sense.
But once I verify that there's no leaks and everything is good, I'm going to put in about 80 gallons, about 2/3 full, put all the chemicals in, let it filter and sit for about a week, run some tests, make sure all the numbers are normal, and then I'll either maybe get a couple of the smaller koi to put in there first, just to get them acclimated in the tank, and then we'll slowly bring Selfie in, or I might bring Selfie in first and then make sure she's okay, and then have her tank mates come and join. I haven't decided how I'm going to talk with some people and find out what the best way to do it is first. Because I mean, I've got 10 years invested with Selfie. I don't want anything to happen to her. You guys all know how much of a beautiful fish she is. So I don't want anything to happen to her. My girlfriend doesn't want anything to happen to her, and we want to give her a nice new place to play. So yeah, that's been my last month or so. So the coolest part about that tank, I got a bunch of decorations, the table that it's on, a huge canister filter, and all the stuff to go with it. $250.
Not bad at all.
It had been a wintering tank for a guy's koi pond, but his koi outgrew it, because I mean his koi got to be like this big.
Yeah.
So he just decided to start aerating and keeping the pond open during the winter. So his koi stay in there now, and he had no need for it. So his loss is my gain, and Selfie's gain. So yeah, that's been that. I want to say a huge thank you to all of our Patreon producers who keep the lights going here. Nicknar, Aurori, Ravenheart, and Mika. We greatly appreciate all of your support, and look forward to many more years of podcasting with your guys' support as well. Let's go ahead and start with some gaming community news.
I thought we were going to be coy about that forever. I've been waiting for like a good minute and a half to fire that one off.
Sure you have.
Come on, you come up with the pun and then you're just like, I need to deploy it. That's how this works.
All right, this first article comes from GameRant.com, written by Dalton Cooper. A leaker gives updates on possible Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy X remakes.
Oh, we'd heard about the 9 before, but the 10 stuff is new, isn't it?
I had not heard anything about 10 before, but yeah, the 9 one has been around since that NVIDIA leak came out, when they talked about all these different games that were on this list, and Final Fantasy IX was one of them, and that basically has been confirmed by Square Enix, all but, I think, actually. But
still nothing official yet, but anyways.
But the Final Fantasy IX remake first leaked ages ago, and now a new update has come courtesy of a reputable leaker, quote, I'm a Hero 2, that is their name, who recently touched on some things that are supposedly in the pipeline for Square Enix. According to their information, the Final Fantasy IX remake was looking to launch at some point in the summer of 2024, but those plans may have changed. The leaker said also that the Final Fantasy X remake currently has a skeleton crew and will not be making the game's anniversary, which is a little bit sad, but it's understandable.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X-3 was mentioned in conjunction with the Final Fantasy X remake, but it's unclear if the projects are one and the same.
Yeah, I think this is the first we've heard of any type of thing that was even referred to with X-3. It's difficult to imagine that they would go back at this point to add something. I know Final Fantasy VII has always had a lot of that stuff with the people clamoring for more stories in that setting, in part because it was so many people's introduction to these RPGs. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that 10 ever had quite that same huge groundswell of support. It was the introduction for a lot of people, given that it was the first one on the PlayStation 2. Mm-hmm. You tend to have like those ones be someone's introduction to it. But I don't know that there was ever that huge demand for more stories in the world of FF10.
Well, 10...
So the idea of pulling out a 10-3 at this point as a entirely new story seems difficult to believe.
10-3 was actually written as a book.
I don't like acknowledging that thing.
That's 10-3 though. That is, you talk with
I'm aware.
Katase, and that was basically what ended up happening after 10-2's story concluded. But with the resurgence of Final Fantasy VII remake, with how well Final Fantasy 16 has actually done critically, Maybe not in overall sales, but critically, it was acknowledged as an amazing game. With those things, and then with Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which I forgot to put notes in here. That was actually released on Thursday, so that is now available on iOS and Android. But
so maybe it's just become a time for them to start giving consideration to those other series in there. It's hard to come up with an entirely new setting for each one. I can see the temptation in revisiting worlds and telling more stories in them rather than developing these whole complex settings that you only really do stuff with once.
Yep.
Like, I get it.
Also, as part of this article, they were talking about that Square Enix is currently working with new PS5 dev kits, which could potentially be based off of PS5 Pro specs, or it might just be similar to a PS5 Slim. But they also seem to have Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits, and may have successfully ported Final Fantasy VII Remake over to the Switch 2. That could be interesting.
So a lot of this is, of course, crossover with information about developments in hardware, and knowing that there's a new dev kit. Generally, that's about all the info we get, and from there on, it's speculation about what it could entail.
Yeah. Now,
but still, there's been expectations for a Slimline or a Pro at some point. So
now, remember, guys, as always, fans should take leaks like this with a grain of salt, even when they come from leakers that have proven accurate track records in the past. So this is all speculative. None of this has been confirmed by Square Enix, but it's just nice to talk about it.
Please do not purchase stock or what else do people do? Like, don't make any kind of speculative investment based on this. Mm-hmm. Don't start getting something tattooed. Like, don't get a tattoo based on this. Would people even do? People would do that.
Yeah. People would do that.
Please don't do that.
Please. Next article, we got a bunch of Final Fantasy XIV news because some other game, Final Fantasy XIV ARR, something about 10-year anniversary, yada yada yada. It's currently the Rising event in Final Fantasy XIV. Have you done the quest yet, Seyrr?
I have not yet. From what I've heard, there's a lot to it this year. Like, they went a bit more all out, in part because it's the 10-year anniversary. I know that there was some like additional quests added, including a look back at some of the 1.0 events and Louis Soir. So there's like an additional quest added in on that one. They also are having the Rising run for an extra long time this time around.
Yep, this time the Rising runs from now until the beginning of patch 6.5. Well, till maintenance, just like the Moogle Treasure Trove event.
So we probably got at least a good month on that.
Yep. I believe they did say it's supposed to be October when 6.5 drops.
Yep. Early October is, I believe, what we've heard. We'll get a more specific date sometime soon, of course.
That Rising Phoenix mount is pretty cool looking. It's not a mount in the traditional sense. You become the mount.
Very appropriate and in keeping with the tale of Louis Soir and like the Realm's rebirth.
Mm-hmm. Plus the fact that it just fits me perfectly anyway. I have the Rising Phoenix and I'm the leader of Phoenix Rising.
There we go.
And we do Phoenix Down Radio after dark. No, it's still light out actually.
I mean, yeah. Give it a bit later in the year for time change and then it'll be after dark.
Yep. But to go, like I said, to go along with that, the Moogle Treasure Trove is also going, and here is a link to that as well.
The Trove is also pretty generous this time around. The prices are the prices for items are about what they would usually be, but duties are giving double the tomestones we would tend to expect from them.
Max of 16, I believe, for like an expert roulette based run, right?
Yep.
And and a lot of them are giving like 8 and 10, and there's a lot. Yep. And there's so many items on there. I mean, you can get all of the birds, I think.
Yep. What was the other? The other one is pretty much all of the 24-man raids are giving bonus. Usually they just choose one for that, but like almost all of them, it is a lot more generous in how they're giving them out and how you can earn them, which again fits in with that festive, celebratory feel of the anniversary.
Which is, it's really nice because they're really going all out to celebrate 10 years of this game, a game that for all intents and purposes should have died back in 2012.
Yep.
Because it was not good at all. But then some man named Naoki Yoshida stepped in and saved the realm by destroying it first.
Well, yeah. You gotta give him a show, right?
But no, it's really...
Yeah, so many things about the story of how Final Fantasy XIV happened are things that just aren't supposed to happen. It's defied the odds and the expectations in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, and it went from a critically panned game to critically acclaimed.
It was an MMO that got that treatment. Typically, when an MMO has that issue, they just like let it run in free-to-play mode and try to eke out what they can.
Yep, and then
like this doesn't happen.
It's pretty crazy, but you know what? I'll take it because they did an amazing job on it. So kudos to everybody at Creative Business Unit 3 and Yoshi's team. You guys knocked it out of the park, and you've kept us here for 10 years. Mostly, not against our will either.
So let's see. Developmental milestones for a 10-year-old.
Oh, God.
It may be starting to form stronger, more complex friendships and peer relationships. It may be experiencing more peer pressure. And it may become more aware of its body as puberty approaches. Body image and eating problems sometimes start around this age. What I'm hearing is that the Limsa Aetheryte is going to somehow get even worse.
Is that possible?
I didn't think so, but do you want to go against the CDC here?
I think
batten down the hatches and prepare for this game to be even more hormonal.
We need to quarantine Balmung.
I don't think it can be contained to Balmung anymore.
Sorry, Balmung. We love you all.
Also, I am not entirely sure Balmung is even the horniest server anymore. Anyways.
I think it's Mateus. I know they had a pretty strong RP scene as well.
There are multiple outbreaks throughout the. Anyways.
Yeah. Yes, mostly in Limsa. You're not wrong.
Weird how that works.
All right. Next,
because thinking of 1.0, Uldal was kind of the central place where everyone, in part because airship travel wasn't really a thing, and Uldal was the most centrally located city, and also where the Waking Sands were at that time, in the market wards of Uldal. So it made sense that became kind of the central hub. And I don't know why Limsa this time around. And
when you have to return to the Waking Sands, well, you might as well be close, right?
Something like that.
All right, continuing on. Letter from Producer Live 79 is set to air on September 23rd. This is going to be the next Letter Producer Live, and we broadcast live from Tokyo Game Show 2023. So be sure to join us for an early peek at what's to come in patch 6.5. And basically, it's going to be a patch 6.5 part 2, and then a few random other announcements, stuff like that. So... the standard stuff that we've come to expect from a live letter. But if the second part of the live letter is that far into September, when is the patch? We know October, but when in October? Are we looking at what? Let me bring up my calendar here.
Yeah, it does seem like they're slow walking some of the development cycle. They generally want to go with a summer release for their expansions. And just with the disruptions that COVID had introduced, if they had kept it to how things bumped, they would be looking at like November and December releases, and I think that's something they want to avoid at all costs.
I think
so. They've been stretching out the development cycle a little bit on these things.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to get it back into the spot without rushing everybody to catch up. They're just extending it another half year. So, if I had to venture a guess, I would say October 10th. So roughly a month from now is my best guess as to when we're going to get patch 6.5.
Oh, God, I'm going to have an early education plank meeting that week.
Well, you just have to take it off, I guess. Never mind, kidding.
Alternately, I could just get all of the other librarians addicted to Final Fantasy XIV.
There you go.
I'm a little bit of the way there. Some of the clerks apparently have a savage progression group.
And as continuing on, then, as we've had every year with the Rising or any big events like this, we get these new little stories that the dev team
Yes.
writes for us. This year they are called Tales from Under the New Moon. And we currently
we've had like Tales from the Shadows, Tales from the Storm, all the various ones.
Yep, and now we actually have the first 3 parts of
the new moon. I'm guessing is kind of referring to that imagery has been used a lot with Final Fantasy IV stuff, especially since we have the post of Endwalker stuff taking us into the 13th, dealing with all that stuff with the moon. It feels like they're drawing a little bit on the reference from that.
But I've seen nothing about whalers, though. There's been nothing about whalers on the moon or carrying harpoons. I am slightly upset by that.
Now, the stories typically are used as an opportunity to explore some of the NPCs who haven't been in the spotlight as much or who have other stuff going on. And we've got a little bit of that, but more than that, it seems like it's being used for a bit of world building. The first story seems at first to be focusing on Estinian, but ends up looking at the history of the Dragoons and of the very first ones.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy?
It was. We took the story of the Dragon Song War, which in Heaven's Word, we explored the origins of it, learned about the hidden truths behind that. And this took that and added another layer onto it. We had gotten to something where it was like, okay, it's clear that this other side was villainous, but hearing the thoughts and feelings that were expressed by the characters in that first story, as well as some of the issues that they were dealing with, again, we ended up with this thing where it's much less clear that there was any villain in the story. So, again, this is something that they've done throughout the story of Final Fantasy XIV, taking these conflicts and showing a lot of that shade and nuance in it. And it was kind of, at first I was just like, oh great, more of the Dragon Song War stuff. But when I finished it, I was like, okay, no, that actually added something to our understanding of it and filled in a little more of that picture. The second one
actually delved into a little bit about Ranjit.
Yep.
And the Minfilias on the first.
Again, started with one of the Scions as what seemed to be the focus, but then used them to delve into deeper, taking Thancred and some of his adventures and having him reflect on the events in the first, and going back into some of that pre-Flood of Light history, some of the events that occurred around the Flood that explained how you had this Far Eastern assassin type as part of the Yulmoran army, as situated in this thing. Yep. Something that seemed a bit incongruous, filling in a bit of that, and also really looking at a lot of the stuff in terms of this despair that people felt in the wake of the Flood, looking at a lot more of that history of the world, really helping understand how it had gotten to the point where it was that world on the brink.
I will say, though, that the whole Minfilia piece was still a little bit odd to me. Because the original Minfilia in that story is our Minfilia.
Right.
And how then she kind of said, I'll be back in another person? What?
I mean...
I mean, granted, yes, she had, she was the voice of Heidelin. So, I mean, I'm assuming that it had to have been some mother crystal energy that allowed her to do that.
I mean, this is something that they touched on in the level, I believe, 77 quest, where Thancred does give his final goodbyes to Minfilia. He does get to talk to her, and she remarks how, in a lot of ways, she's really no different from an Ascian at this point, as this kind of disembodied spirit that's going around riding, using others as vessels. Anything like she's doing it for very different reasons, and she's trying to do good. But there's that question of like, okay, but like if you're using these terrible methods, like it really started to delve into the question of that. And as we see this thing, which also called to mind some of the stuff from Final Fantasy 13 too, where you had Caius and then the Seeress who he was protecting, who was fated to die over and over. And there was kind of an interesting parallel in the despair that arose in both of those guardians.
Yeah,
Ranjit, really,
learning that Ranjit was actually Minfilia's friend and companion way back in the day.
Yeah, and then seeing how the slide of the world into ruin caused even him to start compromising on his principles. I felt for him at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good read. I mean, I do strongly recommend you do delve into that one. Have you had a chance to read the third one then, In the Storm's Wake?
Yes, I did read the third one. That one starts, of course, with Graha Tia as our seeming focus, but uses him to give us a little bit of a delve into Korvosi or Locus Amoans, depending on which side of the divide you land on. And looking at a bit of the history of that imperial province, drawing parallels between it and Alamigo and Doma, but where Alamigo and Doma did retain some amount of their national identity, did have some of that cultural stuff to recur to. Korvosi ended up set on a different path. It does seem that in the wake of Garlemald's fall, it has descended into some kind of chaos. The chain of command has completely fallen apart. We get some of the other info about that. And again, compared to all these other success stories we have, it's kind of interesting to see something that's like, no, we don't necessarily have the happy ending here. Stuff does not always go along that nice happy pathway. Sometimes the stuff, like they talk a little bit about okay, one more year and would Doma have been too far gone? It's impossible to ever really say.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that Hien and Graha are the same age, and when Hien was born,
a fact that had absolutely escaped my notice, by the way. It is wild to think that those two are the same age.
And Hien was born when Doma was under Imperial rule, so he also kind of knew what people, he didn't know anything of Doma's independence. Just like the Korvosi or those from what they call Locus Amonis is.
Locus Amoans. In Latin, it means pleasant place.
But it's so weird. I guess I do recall, in the storyline they did talk about how the Garleans actually did originate from Korvos. And and then when they decided to start, taking over, they decided to take their vengeance on those who kicked them out of their homeland there too. So it's weird.
It delved into a little bit more about how, if you go back to the records of the Alligans, how this has ended up as pretty much this thing where it's hard to say which one necessarily would have had a claim, because for both of them it was like, okay, this is where they're sticking all the stuff that the Alligans didn't want to deal with. I'm oversimplifying a bit, and then in the process, it became this important ancestral homeland to both of these groups.
And then, like I said, the Garleans did not. They held a grudge. They didn't take it well, getting kicked out of there. And once they took over Korvos, they renamed it and struck the name Korvos from written record.
Yep. We also saw this, for instance, in Alamigo when we heard the regional national anthem, which we later would find was the Alamigan national anthem, but with different words and a completely different thing.
Yep.
Again, drawing from a lot of stuff that even like the Roman Empire would do with the lands that they took over. They would not just dominate them militarily, but engage in wholesale cultural replacement.
Yep. And the last story is going to be released next week, so look forward to that. They always do such a good job on these stories.
The focus on the world building more than anything else, I've really been enjoying.
Yep. I wonder how much of this is going to be in Encyclopedia Orzia 3.
Oh, that's going to be coming sometime soon, isn't it? I put in my pre-order and then completely stopped paying attention.
Yeah, I pre-ordered that right away so I can make sure to get the best price on it and not have to worry about paying $10 for shipping from Square Enix. Yeah. Go buy it on Amazon. Seriously, you're going to get it day of it's released. And our last bit of news is a little Final Fantasy 16 news. The PC port has been confirmed, and two new DLCs are in the works. This article comes from Kotaku.com and is written by Ethan Gatch. Now, this is coming from this first quote is coming from Yoshida. That was played in a video that was presented at PAX this past week, I believe. He says, "Allow me to take this opportunity to officially announce that development on a PC version is currently underway," Yoshida told PAX West attendees by way of a brief video address over the holiday weekend. "I hope to be able to give you more information on both the upcoming DLC and the PC version before the end of the year, so please stay tuned." He added that fans have wanted to see more of Valisthea's story and spend more time with her inhabitants, hinting that the DLC packs will focus on fleshing out Final Fantasy XVI's world. It's unclear if their content will take place before or after the main campaign, but fans have been hoping for any expansion might delve deeper into the mysteries of Leviathan, the only icon that's hinted in the game but never makes an actual appearance.
I mean, if they mention it, they've got to do something, right?
Hopefully. Now, along with this, there was also a drop of patch 1.10 on September 3rd. It's a free patch that came out, and it adds customizable costumes for each of the main protagonists, as well as a new onion sword for Clive to wield. And they've also added a bit of a transmog for some of the weapons, so you can have the best weapon, but have it look like your favorite weapon. So
excellent.
I have not yet downloaded that patch or tried it out since it was released, but I can say I did actually finish the story. And I'm sure we'll have we'll do a little spoiler cast maybe in the near future. Sarah, how is your playthrough going?
It has been stalled. I've been literally starting at a new branch. I have to work 5 days a week now, going into the branch. I'm not happy about it.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, when you get used to working remotely and losing some of that freedom, it is a little bit of a concern, especially when you have to commute along those San Francisco highways.
I get to do the South Bay. It's not that bad.
Well, but still.
So stalled.
Well, just do
one
your
of
best.
these days.
What you
Possibly
should do,
once I get into a routine.
Yeah, maybe just take like an hour a night and just knock out a few quests. That's what I did. I mean, I think my longest time I sat down and played was maybe on weekends when I played for maybe 4 hours. But I
so want to do it as the okay, do this big binge type thing, but that just may not be where I'm at anymore.
It's tough to do. I mean, especially when you have other responsibilities that get tacked on. I completely understand. I mean, it took me 2 months to beat it, and I started playing when it came out.
Yeah.
So I get you, Sarah. But I mean, I want to wait on that playthrough or our spoiler cast until you're at a comfortable place in your playthrough, because I'm sure I know Nick Nar has beaten it already. I don't know who else out there has beaten it, but Sarah, you are in for one hell of a ride.
Yeah.
The story's amazing, and I am looking forward to the DLC. And from my understanding, they are going to be paid DLC, so they're not just free.
Okay. I had wondered about that because they mentioned that the updates were the article that you referenced mentioned a free update. So I was like, that's just the update, right? That's like a normal patch thing. Of course, those are free. Yep. And I had wondered if the DLC would be as well.
Yeah,
not unexpected.
We probably won't see any new DLC actual ready to go until next year.
Yeah.
So take your time and enjoy the game.
Yep. The PC port is also not that much of a surprise. I think the original trailer had, the very first trailer had mentioned it briefly before it was taken down.
Yep.
And I know Yoshi P had also mentioned that, they're essentially said to don't worry about waiting for, but there was an implication that it was going to be around eventually. But
my understanding,
if it was something where you were really interested in the game and in the story, you should get the PlayStation.
Understanding where the new CEO of Square Enix wants to take things, I have a feeling this might be one of the last console exclusives that we're going to see in quite a while.
The entire idea of a console exclusive is weird.
But I mean, you get them a lot in first-party games.
Yeah.
But I mean, having a third party with a console exclusive, usually that means there's a large amount of money coming from that console maker to have it put only on their console. So
Once upon a time, it was just that they had an established relationship. I remember there was a period where Squaresoft, not even Square Enix, but Squaresoft games came out on Nintendo systems.
only Nintendo. I think they never came out on Sega.
Nintendo took it as a huge betrayal when they brought out Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation instead.
Well, the thing of that one was that the Nintendo 64 cartridges would not have been able to hold the game.
I understand, it absolutely makes sense, but Nintendo still took it as a betrayal.
Well, it's because they did not keep up with the times.
They can suck it up, but they still took it that way.
And it took a long time, but then they did mend the bridges, and we did start to see a few console exclusives on the Switch, on the Wii.
It did take quite some time, though.
But yeah, but it took forever to get the old like the pixel remasters on the consoles. So
yep.
Which now I have those on my Switch.
The world is funny.
Yes. All right. So that is our game and community news. Now, you know, I really thought long and hard about, did I want to sit down and figure out, you know, what the last year of podcasting was for us here at Phoenix Sound Radio. And, you know, I didn't think that there was a ton of really noteworthy events or things that happened as far as the podcast goes.
It's just been weird.
I mean, we only had 20 podcasts or less this year, I think.
I feel like a lot of the other content creators that we usually do stuff with, I don't know if they've been less active or just been less in contact with us, but it feels like there just hasn't been quite as much going on, which is a little sad making.
I mean, I know a few of the others are still going. I mean, I've actually kind of bowed out a little bit on the strictly Final Fantasy podcasts and things like that. I do still see that, you know, Etherite Radio is still doing their thing on a regular basis. But I'm not sure about like the Wondrous Tales, or, you know, I know Gather Together is taking a few breaks here and there. But, you know, and with everything going on, you know, in my personal life, the new job, the new girlfriend, it's been, I mean, it really impacted how I was able to deal with the podcast. And I had to actually put the podcast aside a few times. You know, we've had multiple times where we had to skip a podcast and we went a month between shows because I could not find a better schedule to make it work, and I didn't want to go on an off week schedule again, because then Seyrr's schedule gets all messed up.
Last time.
Yeah, we would try to do that to get you know, to try and get back in line again, but that it's a lot. So the biggest thing that I want to say is thank you for all of your support this past year, because like I said, it has not been a standard year for us here at Phoenix Down Radio, but we're still doing everything we can to try and give you the best content possible. And I think with the support we've gotten from our Patreon producers, from those of you who watch us live on the on Twitch, those who listen on the podcast every time the new episode comes out, we see it. We see you guys are still out there listening to our show and enjoying your time here. And we appreciate your understanding, so we can continue to give you the best of us. Not just, we can either give you consistency or we can give you our best. I mean, it'd be nice if we can do both, but sometimes life's not always that way.
Yeah.
So with that out.
When I dream, I have a pony.
I like ponies. I like turtles. Anyway, so what I decided to do instead was, last episode we did disc 1 of Compi de Chocobo. So let's have some more fun with chocobos. And let's do disc 2.
Disc is a little. Oh yeah, this disc is a little bit weird. You've got some of the spin-off games, some of the sequels. This is like your side B deep cuts here.
There's also a few live performances of Chocobo medleys too. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And Nick Nar, this one's for you. Final Fantasy Adventure, baby.
Oh my god.
Seiken
man,
Densetsu, Final Fantasy Gaiden.
Yeah, it started off as a Final Fantasy side story and would eventually become what we know as the Mana series.
Yep. But this, I had 2 Final Fantasy games on the Game Boy. Final Fantasy Legend and Final Fantasy Adventure.
And then it turns out it was a Final Fantasy game.
Exactly, but I still loved the hell out of Final Fantasy Adventure. It was a Legend of Zelda style game on the Game Boy, and it was so much fun.
Mm.
And Nick Nar had the exact same 2 for his Game Boy.
Those who may have missed the original excitement on that, you can find it now as, I believe, Sword of Mana is what it was relocalized under. Uses a bit more of some of the modern design things. You have a lot of like the job and class change things that you would see in a modern Mana game, but it's kind of nice to see that as a sort of, hey, here's the roots of this series.
But no, I guess I still think they did a good job for what the game was.
Those opening bars are just like, what the hell is going on here? And then it resolved into the familiar Chocobo theme.
Well, the Game Boy was very limited in its MIDI palette. So you had to be very careful with what you could do. So they had to super simplify it, and it sounded very brassy.
Yeah.
It's still fun.
And
though.
yet, that's the other thing. Like, hearing on this is probably nothing like what it sounded like actually coming out of a Game Boy's speakers.
No, that was tinny as hell.
Yeah.
I think I might have it somewhere. No, I don't know if I do have that one anymore. I do have a Game Boy, but I don't know if I have that cartridge anymore. So,
yeah, it's a big issue for like video game history and restoration and things like that. That you, even if you can extract the sound files for it, it's going to sound different if it's not played on the original hardware. This is before the age of MP3s, where you had that stuff that had this consistent formatting that could sound the same across devices.
Okay,
so,
according to Nick
pretty
Nar,
weird stuff.
Sword of Mana is the remake, but Adventures of Mana is an updated version of Final Fantasy Adventure.
Oh.
So yeah, but it is the Mana series.
Yeah.
You are correct there. Thank you for that clarification, Nick Nar. Let's go ahead and continue.
I appreciate it.
This next one is the Chocobo theme from the PlayStation version of Final Fantasy II. So this would have been from the Final Fantasy II on the Final Fantasy Origins disc for PlayStation, which I do have that. And because it was PlayStation, it was a much more refined number of instruments that they could utilize, and they took the same theme and just updated the instruments.
Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't say no frills, but yeah, it's just got the one simple loop. It doesn't even have the full thing that we would come to get for the Chocobo theme later. But yeah, just that same one in a little bit less of a tinny early MIDI, yada yada yada.
Yep,
it's fine. It's a solid Chocobo theme.
Yep. Next, we have the Final Fantasy III DS version of the Chocobo theme. And again, the DS had a lot more available that it could utilize. So it's a cleaner, nicer sound versus the NES version.
I mean, it's not just that. The DS remake of Final Fantasy III was practically an entirely new game in some ways. The original one had just 4 generic Onion Knights that you would you gave names to like you would have in Final Fantasy 1.
Yep.
But the DS version gave them names: Luneth, Ark, Refia. God, I can't remember who the 4th one was.
Luneth, Ark, Refia, and what is his name?
Ingus,
yes.
Yep.
And I should be mad because I think was it Luneth or Ark that was my tattoo?
Yours is Luneth.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Ark is the very demure, probably a white mage, probably a bottom, yada yada yada.
I thought Refia was the white mage.
a lot of stuff I've seen, they'll have Refia be like a monk or some other type of hard-hitting thing. She was a blacksmith's apprentice.
Well, see, I always thought in some of it depends. There's so many different pictures from that.
Yeah,
it's very different, but.
Yep, I mean, Final Fantasy III was the one that introduced the job change system, so plenty of people probably have their own memories of saying them too. But yeah, like 3 added this whole thing in, and so I rather liked you had like that nice little thing of strings of Noah's loot being an important item in the game. So I found like I was like, okay, this is a thing being played on a loot like that. Like it kind of felt like it had more of that thing where you're going from the kind of generic story with the fill-in-the-blank characters to this more modern take on the story, and it felt like the Chocobo theme updated itself in a similar way.
Yep, and this was actually my first playthrough of Final Fantasy III was the DS version.
I mean, unless you had access to ROMs or a lot of import stuff and a decent amount of Japanese skill, it was probably the first one for a lot of other people as well.
Yep. And continuing down the DS route, this is the Chocobo theme from the Final Fantasy IV DS port. So again, it's that same theme from Final Fantasy IV, but it has that updated DS instrument grouping that it can pull from. So it's more.
Damn, this is really going at it.
Lots of it's multiple instruments. Multiple layers. It feels more of a full song than just a little ditty.
Yeah, some of the there have been some of the other CDs they did with like redone versions of the music from those. Final Fantasy IV had the Love Will Grow soundtrack, and this is feeling like it's touching some of those aspects as well. Some of that big like Celtish music inspired stuff, a lot of the same instruments. It's giving me that vibe there.
It does have a little bit of a bagpipes vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe just in the without as much droning, but maybe in the tone of the instrument.
But yeah, no, I like had the Love Will Grow soundtrack. Thank you, Napster. We're past the statute of limitations. I can say that.
Are we?
I'm pretty sure we are. Anyways, but yeah, no, like it, and just hearing this, it reminds me very much of that. So I do wonder if the people who were doing the remakes on this were drawing from those other pieces of media that were released and using those to inform their feel of it. Because yeah, it really reminds me of that Love Will Grow soundtrack.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the second theme from that DS remake, Samba de Chocobo.
Interesting.
It's a very different take on this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it does feel a bit more like an actual proper samba.
It's also more
first
airy.
one. Yeah.
The original one, while that one was also for the black chocobo that flew, this one has that airy feel.
Like the original one had kind of a very brassy, forward, powerful one, but like a samba does have a little bit of this more melodic, airy feeling to it. So this one really fits the name Samba de Chocobo a lot better, I feel like.
Samba can be very brassy too.
I mean, it can be, but a lot of it is going to be more of this kind of feel.
I'm not sure how many sambas actually are flute forward. I think they chose this because of the airiness that it gives the song.
Huh.
Again, that's just
right, we are gonna have to dig into some things later, because it's like, how much of this is vague memories, how much of this is actual stuff? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna drag you down a Wikipedia hole or 5. It'll be great for me.
All right, now our next tune comes from Piano Collection's Final Fantasy VII. This is Cinco de Chocobo. A nice piano rendition of Final Fantasy VII's Cinco de Chocobo.
Yep. Final Fantasy VII's Chocobo music was a pretty chill, relaxing vibe to it. The piano was adding something interesting. It like the The original was just like kind of a gentle, more like relaxing type thing. This one has a little more of a playful feel to it, I
It's
feel like.
jazzy, just a slight bit jazzy.
Yeah. Like the Chocobo is still loping along, but there's a little bit of like impishness to it. It might do something a little fun somewhere.
The song has a little bit of a lilt and syncopation to it because you got the beat kind of.
Yeah.
That's what gives it that jazzy feeling. So you kind of are like
100%.
You're in. It's chill, but it's still kind of like, yeah, man, that's cool.
Love it.
It's a good rendition. I mean, I'm glad that they pulled from other sources, not just the actual games too.
Yeah, it feels like the first disc was more for people who want to relive the games itself, and the second one, as I said, it's the deep cuts. It's just ones where we're exploring and playing. It's the one that feels more like art than anything else.
This is the Chocobo themes for the Chocobo theme lovers. This is for me. This is for me. This is mine. You know.
I mean, other people are allowed to have it too.
No. Okay, I guess.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and jump forward to our next one. This one is a weird. Okay, this is from the Final Fantasy 13 OST Plus. We're just gonna start playing it, and then I'll read the name of the theme when we get it going here. So bear with me, please.
All right, that's definitely Chocobo's of Cocoon.
Yep. But it's called M64E, Cocoon de Chocobo English version. So this is the version on the US game.
Got it. Yes, because I remember I remarked.
The other one was Japanese.
Yes, this is the one that I actually have a copy of because like the lyrics when it's doing the little thing about it are in English. Yeah. And like localized to English.
Yes, so the lyrics are gonna be different this time when it kicks in here shortly.
Yep. Okay, and that also explains a little bit of the weirder name. Like this is one that probably wasn't showing up much on the soundtrack releases since those were in Japan, and so it probably just had some type of naming thing that was like hey, it's this record keeping thing in this software somewhere.
While this is playing, let me go back to the Final Fantasy 13 soundtrack and take a peek at what version that is. It's nice to have all these soundtracks on my computer.
Mm-hmm. Do, do, do.
I don't know which disc it is. And they're all in Japanese. I like the Japanese version better.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's. I think for me, it's just when they try to localize the lyrics, it loses something.
Also keep in mind that this was playing like effectively over the PAs at an amusement park. Mm-hmm. It wasn't one that you heard while you were riding the Chocobos. It was meant to be a bit more in the background of things. So based on that, like I feel like it works a little better for that. But yeah.
All right. This next one is a little bit of a deep cut from Final Fantasy 13-2. This is Groovy Chocobo.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, this would be the normal Chocobo riding music, I think. Like, 13.2 was playing with a lot of stuff. It's the one that had the plot that felt more like we got the Chrono Trigger sequel that we'd always wanted.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a great, probably one of my favorite games.
Yeah, but so like, 13
Best Pokemon game ever.
13 had kind of that juxtaposition between like the wild and the technological, and this is in the post-Cocoon era, sometimes post-Cocoon centuries, kind of reaching this weird melding of the two as the world develops along various unexpected pathways.
Also, thank you for that info, Nick Nar. Maybe we'll take maybe I'll go back to the 13 one and play the original Japanese version from the soundtrack and see which version that is, and then we'll continue on.
We'll want to jump to the actual lyrics if we do that.
Yep, because I think it's about almost a minute and a half in.
Yeah.
Well, this one is cool because it's really focusing on the jazziness of it. It's very. What's the word I want here? It seems like it's very
Now you've got some very discordant bits here.
Yeah, I know it's not written to be like when they're doing it as they want. What's the word I want here?
Improvisational?
Thank you. It's not improvisational, but it has that feel. You know, that jazzy improv feel.
Yeah, 100% feels that way.
Because we get some drum fills, we get a little bit of, you know, little jazzy ditties that pop through. It's really
whatever this bit is, which I don't remember, but I am loving.
It's groovy, man. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pause this one, and we're gonna jump into disc 3, track 10 of the Final Fantasy 13 soundtrack. And just listen
for the
to
comparison.
It. Exactly. Let's play it with. I want to open it with a different program so I don't screw up my list here. So we'll open it up with.
We're getting a little into the weeds, but sometimes it can be fun to chase these ideas down, like chasing down Chocobo.
I don't know. Can you hear that? I don't think you can.
I cannot.
I think the stream can. Let me a second here. I need to change the output source.
If the stream can hear it, then that's fine.
I can fix this in 3 seconds. I think. Maybe I can't. I'm trying to change where it's playing from, and I can't. I'll kick forward here. I wanted to reduce the volume a little bit too, because it was a little loud. Where's my volume slider in? I don't like the new media player for Windows. I prefer like the old stuff, which is why I usually use VLC. There's
and it clearly doesn't like you.
Apparently not. There we go. Oh, that's even louder. There we go.
If the stream can hear it, that's good.
Trying to get into the lyrics here. No, I don't think the stream can't hear it. I don't think, unfortunately. So sorry about that, guys. But that was the Japanese version. Listening to it, so that was the one that we heard on the first disc. And in our game, go ahead.
I wonder if it just works better for us because at least a lot of us don't know Japanese, and so it's a cutesy little amusement park jingle type thing. I wonder if it just hits differently if you can't understand it as well. I don't know.
Okay.
I am speaking as a native English speaker who does not know any other languages, so
all right, let's go ahead.
Entirely speculation on my part.
Jumping into the next track here. This is another Final Fantasy 13 2-track, Rodeo de Chocobo.
This, I believe, was from the in-game casino Serendipity at unknown time and unknown place in history. A magical wonderland found in an unknown time, just hidden among the byways of history. And it had your usual fun casino stuff, and I believe Chocobo Racing was a part of it. I believe it was one that you could bet on them, but I don't believe you got to directly race them yourself, did you?
No, I don't believe there was direct racing in 13.2, but there was Chocobo betting. And I think you could influence the races a little bit with items and such.
Yep.
But beyond that, I think it was mostly RNG.
I ended up getting most of my coins from the slot machine equivalent, so...
Yeah, there was a few different ways that you could go through to get the things that you needed to get in this location, but it's been so long since I've played it, I don't recall what my particular method was. But it's kind of a neat little take on it. But our favorite version of the Chocobo theme from Chocobo 13.2 is very different from this. I love this one.
This is absolutely the mean shitpost Chocobo theme.
This is a banger.
Those lyrics! So cute, so yet fierce is he from hell.
This is crazy Chocobo. Love it. I wonder if Koji wrote these lyrics.
Such a...
I wonder if Koji Fox wrote these lyrics.
Or possibly performed these lyrics. Such a shitpost. Now this is the music that would play when you rode the rambunctious Chocobos, which I think only really showed up in like the end 700 AF timeline.
I don't remember, but it was just so funny when I heard this the first time. Like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Is this really a metal Chocobo theme?
Yep. The rambunctious Chocobos were, of course, very difficult to control, had some other special features going on with them, but very silly sequence. And so we've got this Chocobo theme that feels like it just tosses out the rules.
And it's also a little bit throwing a few little double entendres there too.
Yeah.
Talking about riding this Chocobo. It's still a banger. I love it. Most of them are bops, 100%. But this one's a banger.
Yeah. And then, like, those lyrics are just so ridiculous. It is clearly not intending to take itself seriously.
Okay, and then
which I think is why it's stuck with people so much.
Now, and this last one from 13.2 is from the OST Plus, and this one is called Hopping Chocobo. At first I was thinking, is this almost a ragtime style? But not quite.
Yeah. It's got that, what is it you call when it's like, the piano keys, it's like the kind of tremolo? Is that what it, I can't remember the name of it now. There's like a name for it when it do that on the piano keys.
Nick Nar said that the vocalist on Crazy Chocobo was Shooty HG, but he could not find who wrote the lyrics. We have our own little resident fact checker. We appreciate that, Nick Nar.
Okay, it is just called a trill.
But this is a kind of a neat take on the Chocobo theme.
It was on the OST Plus. Did this actually appear anywhere in the game?
This may have been like in the arena. I didn't do much of those arena fights in 13.2.
I did most of the ones that weren't DLC, but it's also possible that like some of these OSTs have had tracks that were developed but then not part of the released game for one reason or another.
Yeah,
that's another possibility.
Yeah, as you can tell, we've done extensive research for this. You know, the great thing about these music soundtracks episodes is, you know, it's not that we are here to be experts on the topic. We're here to listen to the music and enjoy it with you guys, basically. So
I can wax rhapsodic about pretty much anything.
Yep, and that's what we want to do, is we just want to have some fun with it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoy listening to the songs again. All right, and this is a long song, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one.
Reasonable.
We're coming on to some Lightning Returns stuff, and this one is called Bluesy Chocobo. Now, a lot of the Final Fantasy XIII theme songs really took a distinct turn from what a lot of the past ones have been. Like, I mean, even the victory theme was vastly different from what we've had in previous Final Fantasies. So
yeah, which I think may be part of why Final Fantasy XIII had such a strong reaction compared to a lot of the other entries in the series.
Yep.
Like, every one has had its defenders and its detractors, but 13, the discourse around 13 definitely felt a bit more heated than any other I'd seen.
Though, I mean, I think 13 did it right in a lot of ways because, well, they were on Xbox, which was really nice. You know, the fact that people, you know, on the Microsoft consoles could play Final Fantasy 13, 13 Tune, and Lightning Returns.
It wouldn't be fair to keep all this for ourselves.
But then we went back to, you know, PlayStation and PC for 14 and 15 and 16.
Yeah, well, 14's going to be on Xbox soon enough.
Yep. 15 maybe it'll go on Xbox, but
the industry's just weird. I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't remember there being a whole lot of Chocobo riding in, though I never actually did end up finishing 13.3, and I still got a lot farther in it than most people I know.
But this kind of has a nice little different feel to the Chocobo song. I don't know if I'd call it fully bluesy, but I mean, it's got some blues influence to it.
Yeah, that's a weaker field of music for me, so I'll defer to your expertise on this.
I mean,
I'm
not an expert on it either, but yeah, I agree. It is pleasant. It's got some influence, but I'm not. You don't feel that. Like, the blues is more of something that it relies on, you know, a little bit of, you know, sad feelings.
Yeah, this feels like too happy and energetic.
It's more of a jazz style. Because I mean, there's dozens of schools of jazz, you know, that work. But blues...
Chocobo, tell us all about how you've lost all your greens.
All right, the next one from Lightning Returns is Chocobo Returns. There's a lot of, you know, different jazzy styles with these themes.
Possibly it's because I've been listening to a lot of it lately, but this almost feels bossa nova-ish to me.
I can see that. But I mean, the thing with music is it's influenced by everything.
Oh, sure.
I mean, nothing in music is new anymore. It seems like it's either been done, or been redone, or been redone in another fashion. You know.
I mean, at the same time, I'm reminded of the composer who, when told about this, to his guests to the seashore, was like, "Look, the last wave."
It's just repeating multiple times.
But each wave is a little bit different.
But
I'm also reminded of Brennan Lee Mulligan's Defender of the Basic sketch, wherein one of the other people points out that, like, such and such are all the same. So are sunsets and rainbows, you viper. It may be hard to do something truly and completely original and all that, but I don't know. I feel like there's still some fun for a Told Ground.
Oh my
to
god,
tread.
Nick Nars thought everything. It sounded like the intro to Price is Right.
These prices could. Oh.
If the price
Oh my
is
God,
right.
I would watch The Price is Right with Chocobo showcase, like models showcasing the things.
Where?
Like not Chocobolina, actual Chocobos.
Yeah, not Chocobocolina. Chocobocolina.
Oh.
All right, let's go ahead and move
Actual
on.
Chocobos.
We'll move on to our next one, which is another one from Lightning Returns. Marimba de Chocobo.
Man, they are really digging into South America.
Well, they're trying to represent the different styles of music out there, and I really appreciate that.
I want a Chocobo Oompa band.
I bet you there's gonna be a there is Polka de Chocobo.
Polka is different from an Oompa band.
But Oompa is a type of polka.
You know what I mean.
I'm not wrong. But no, I love the marimbas. It's a beautiful instrument.
It really is.
We had one
the
in our band when I was in high school, and I used to love playing that thing with those little yarn mallets. You go.
I think it was actually the Mana series that introduced me to marimbas because they have them as some of the games that you would create musical instruments that would be used to cast spells, and there were a fair number of marimbas in among there, and that's what taught me about it.
Yeah, I love marimbas.
But yeah, it's a great instrument that does not get enough love.
I love vibraphones, xylophones. You know, I really enjoyed those percussive instruments.
Like the struck percuss. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, one of my first instruments I played was piano. So I mean, it's basically it's a struck piano.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was an easy transition for me when I first started band, and it was kind of fun to be able to play these. And when you're holding the sticks in your hands, you got 4, 2 in each hand, and you kind of go. It was cool. I loved it. But I got stuck carrying the bass drum around all the time during marching band, and I decided I wanted a lighter instrument, so I went to trumpet.
Makes sense. I was always in choir. I wish I still enjoy singing, but I wish I had learned to play an instrument at some point. I know there's still time. It's just harder now.
It's never too late, and you're never too old to learn a new trick. Okay.
I know. Just put the time in my schedule for it.
Oh, Nick Nar, you're also a trumpet player. Nice.
Nice.
And I was a first tenor in choir, and I was first chair trumpet my junior and senior years. So yeah. Let's go ahead and move on. We're going into the Crystal Chronicles, and this is that Chocobo theme. Now, those who played Crystal Chronicles, the Crystal Bearers, you know they have a lot of odd instruments in their instrumentation.
What was the first one? Because Crystal Bearers was the one that had Lael in it, right?
That was the remake, I believe. Yeah, or something. But
There were a bunch of different ones that.
They had the hurdy-gurdy and the crumhorn and...
Yeah, this is the game that introduced me to the crumhorn.
And the hurdy-gurdy.
In addition to having the character hurdy and gurdy.
Because of the hurdy-gurdy.
Yep.
I mean, have you ever actually seen a hurdy-gurdy in person?
Yes.
See, I've only seen pictures
wild.
of hurdy-gurdies, and they are freaking crazy.
They are wild. So yeah, this doesn't feel like it's using quite as many of the really unusual instruments that I tend to associate with.
But these are definitely acoustic style instruments, which fits completely within the Crystal Chronicles theme.
I would have loved to hear a Chocobo theme on like a full-on hurdy-gurdy or similar.
I bet you if you Google for it, you'll find it.
Probably, yeah.
I'm sure that somebody's played it on the hurdy-gurdy on YouTube somewhere.
I'll go look for that later. Recently I was talking with Safe Sephiroth, formerly the Crucible, our friend of the podcast, all that, and we were talking about some game where he had a bardic type thing where there was a saxophonist and accordionist backing him up, and I was like, that sounds awful. And one dive of YouTube later is like, okay, no, saxophone and accordion actually sound really amazing together.
Accordion can fit in a lot of places you didn't think it could fit in.
Right?
And that was not sexual innuendo. I was trying to clean it up, and Seyrr went the other way.
You say that's not innuendo, and I immediately go for the innuendo. Perfect.
Oh, darn it, my that's not working right now. Oh well, we'll fix it later.
All right.
My soundboard stopped working. We'll fix it in a later time. But anyway, now we move on to Final Fantasy Legends: Warriors of Light and Dark. Not a game I'm familiar with.
You might also know it as Final Fantasy Dimensions. It was a mobile game. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, this is called Funk de Chocobo. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
They got a little bit of the funk bass. I was expecting a little more slap bass with that too, you know?
Yeah.
And a nice guitar riff instead of piano.
Yeah, change it up with the instruments. It'll be fine.
I mean, I like it still.
Yeah, I don't hate it. This is nice. But like,
it's got a little funkiness, little stank.
For some of these different ones, it's like I'd really love them to lean into it a bit more, like fully commit to the bit.
I agree. I mean, if you're gonna do a bluesy de Chocobo, get in there and make it bluesy. And if you're gonna make it funky, you know, put that stank on it and make it funky. You know?
Not bad though.
Like I said, it's still a bop. So I mean, I guess I still enjoy it. That was kind of neat. So this is kind of, again, I feel this is melding a little bit of funk with a little bit of jazz. Because you get
it does.
There are some jazz, styles that really pull on piano and flute. To do their improvisational runs and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm kind of pulling that right now from this particular song. But let's go ahead and jump into Type 0's Chocobo theme. Type 0 is really dark as far as its story went. I mean, even though it was about a school of kids learning how a military school, basically.
Yeah, it was a military school. Like, think Final Fantasy VIII, except we don't even have the mercenary aspect of it. It is full on like a military for a particular nation.
Mm-hmm.
Type 0 was definitely the more like war stories Final Fantasy.
This has kind of a scholastic feel.
Yeah.
Like something you would hear at a place of higher education.
It does also kind of work with like the militaristic, like that little bit of pomp to it. there is a bit of overlap between the two settings.
Yep.
Where you've got like this thing that may be a little more like strictly regimented.
Which, I mean, if you think about, high school and college, there's a lot of, repetition, a lot of regiment involved with it. And if
you're going to see that a lot more in Japanese high school or academic setting.
Not necessarily maybe with American public school, but definitely in this theme, I think that fit.
Yeah, American schools in general tend to have a little bit more likely focus on independent thought and things like that.
All right, now we're going to have a few coming from Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon.
Ooh.
Starting with the Prelude. I have not heard this before, so a lot of these are new to me.
Huh?
This definitely sounds like the beginning of a video game, yeah.
I mean, Prelude is like the beginning of a symphony in this case, and yeah, it's kind of. I could see this as a start to like a comic opera or similar.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see if I can hear any of the Chocobo theme in it, though.
There were a couple moments that felt like it, but
right there. You can hear it in the background of that.
Yeah, it's more of a motif than anything.
Yep. Moving into Chocobo's house. Still from Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon.
So this would be where Chocobo goes to recover and prepare for the next adventure?
Yeah, I mean, because you hear the theme in there, but you also kind of hear it as more of the sleepy time and the relaxed.
Yeah. It's got a lullaby-ish aspect to it.
Or kind of like the in songs from previous Final Fantasies, but in Chocobo form.
Yeah.
You can shoehorn that Chocobo theme into a lot of different styles. Which is this is a beautiful celebration of the Chocobo theme, and I'm all for this. This was probably my greatest find at Detour, seriously.
Nice.
All right.
We've got a bit more Chocobo Dungeon, don't we?
Oh, yep. Our next one is the finale. But don't worry, this isn't the last one we hear. It's the orchestra version. The finale. Sure picks up quite a bit there, doesn't it?
Oh, we've got that minor key to Chocobo theme. For a game that's going to be all about Chocobos, you can do a bit more of using the Chocobo theme as a leitmotif rather than needing to do the entire melody.
Yep, which is nice, and they've really dug into that. Rather than just continuously play the Chocobo theme over and over, they just built these songs around pieces of it.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be a game there where the Chocobo is front and center, you have an opportunity to really dive into all these aspects. Like, really build a character out of it. There must be a cutscene playing out over this, and like you can get a general vibe of like, okay, like an action thing is happening, okay, like some type of like more tender moment, or like the moment where the quote-unquote villain has like their heart, because like the Chocobo games, like they're not complete, but like they are a little bit softer and gentler in some ways. Well, I mean, they're like a little bit of like a happier world.
These are games that I believe are meant for younger audiences. Yeah. Or people who really enjoy Chocobos.
Kids and kids at heart.
I might have to look into them.
And people who have kids' hearts in a fridge in their basement. Wait, what?
Who told you?
Ah. Oh, there's the triumphant fanfare.
And the final song we get from the Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon is Chocobo's Happy Christmas.
What?
Yep. You got the jingle bells and everything.
Does it like have a calendar? Can it tell when you're playing on Christmas?
Who knows? Or maybe there's just an event that they put in the game. I do like it though. It's a very Christmassy sound, yet still has that Chocobo motif built into it.
Yep, you got your sleigh bells.
Are you looking up if they can tell if you were playing on Christmas?
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there is a thing for like Christmas or any other thing going on. Huh. I did find that an absurd number of people from Genshin Impact voiced characters in the Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody back in 2019. Like, I am recognizing a lot of Genshin Impact voice actors. Not at all what I was looking for, but... yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
All right. We're going to keep moving on because there's still quite a few more tunes to go through.
Okay.
We're moving into Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon 2. Our next theme is a new prelude, Premonition of a New Journey. So it's Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon 2.
Like the hi-hat snapping. They've used this in other songs to add that mystery element.
Yep.
I'm reminded of some tracks from Final Fantasy VII where they did that. And we've got some of that trilling, some of that up. Yep.
I love
There's
this.
that minor key. Got that minor key theme going. Like, this is clearly set over a scene where some kind of hijinks are happening.
Mm-hmm. This is probably playing in as like the opening credits and like the what's the word I want here? Like they're kind of laying out the story for us.
Yeah. Setting the stage and all
there
that.
You go.
Yeah, I do not know enough about the actual plot to even begin to speculate. But it does have that thing of like peaceful morning and then thing happens. Oh no! Madcap whatnot, plunging down into the darkness.
Yeah, as Nick
Moment of hope.
As Nick Nar so eloquently put it, hijinks and tomfoolery.
I mean, that feels par for the course with Chocobos.
Yep. I think this sets the stage very well for the beginning of this game. Very nice. Continuing on, our next one from Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon 2 is March de Chocobo.
Okay, for a moment I was wondering, but yeah, this is feeling like a march.
Yep, they started it off a little slower, but now they've got the whole march. I mean, who author isn't going along with this going boom, 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 boom?
Like, it would be a pretty quick. You'd have to be marching pretty quickly to keep up with this.
It really raises the spirits, though.
Just hope your packs aren't too heavy.
Well, I bet you the Chocobos could keep up a nice pace like this.
They don't count. Okay, we've got that soft ending again, which makes me feel like maybe this was another thing over a scene where
Very
some
possible.
stuff happened.
Yep.
The arriving of the Chocobo cavalry or similar.
And
And now I kind of want to play the Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon games.
All right, and the last one from Mysterious Dungeon 2 is called TVCM Part 1. I don't know what that means, but we'll see in a minute.
Oh, I think
A
it's the
commercial
music
track.
for... Yeah. Television commercial.
TV commercial music.
Man, I remember years ago seeing a commercial for Coca-Cola that had the Final Fantasy IX characters, and I think we talked about it back during the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack.
It actually was in the soundtrack, I believe.
It's just so weird to think of, like, the commercials for games in Japan are so different from the ones here.
Yeah, the disc 4, the last couple tracks were from the television commercials for Coca-Cola.
Yep.
So yeah, we did directly discuss them because it was a part of the actual soundtrack.
But so I mean, like, this, like, you've got the full, like, makes me wonder what the commercial was actually like to have this as the backing music for it.
Well, like Nick Nar is saying, the Japanese television commercials are very, very different from what we expect here. I mean, this is a 1:48 song, and a U.S. commercial is usually on around 30 seconds, unless you get like an extended online commercial,
right,
or a trailer. So I mean, this would be more akin to a trailer than just a commercial, really. But I mean, that's just kind of how they run it. But they don't. I don't know if they have the same style commercial breaks that we do in the U.S., where you get like 10 minutes of the show and 3 minutes of commercials.
Like, I know just from watching anime and the like that there's usually one commercial break at about the midpoint.
Mm-hmm. And it's usually probably maybe 5 minutes. Because I mean, if you look at the actual runtime of an anime, we were kind of veering off a little bit, but the runtime of an anime is about 22 minutes. So that leaves right around 8 minutes of time for some sort of commercial break. So do they have a larger break at that point?
Yeah. This is something that maybe I'll just get into a bit more post-show because it is absolutely a ramble. But just like the cultural differences on these things and how they develop are absolutely fascinating.
Yep. Like I said, this is something we can definitely delve into another time.
Like, it's labeled as a TV commercial, but it doesn't feel like any commercial I've ever seen.
Exactly. And now we have the opening theme to Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, The Labyrinth of Forgotten Time. We only have the one from that game, so let's enjoy that. You got the ticking clock in there to indicate time.
Like, the mystery dungeon in general kind of implies, like, okay, you're delving down deep into this thing, but Labyrinth really emphasizes kind of that maze-like aspect, a lot more of the, like, purposefully hidden mystery. Like, even if that's not necessarily intended, the word labyrinth feels like it kind of implies that. Mm-hmm. So we're already getting a bit of a different vibe here. This is a game about investigating a mystery, like a purposefully hidden thing.
It sure does take a different turn here right after it gets to that little intro section. They're digging into the mystery part of it now instead of the time aspect.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I'm glad they've included some of these other Final Fantasy games, you know, like that are actually, you know, especially the Chocobo forward ones like this.
Yeah.
And giving us some of their themes that kind of riff on the original Chocobo theme.
Especially when the Chocobo is the focus of the game rather than being a supporting thing.
Yep. This one is taking many different turns.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it's in some ways similar to that prelude from the first Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon game, where it's like, hey, it's like a prelude at an opera or a symphony or something like that, where here's a little preview of what you're going to be watching over the next several hours.
Yep, setting the story a little bit so we have an expectation of where this is going to go, and then they jump into it. Yep. Moving on from Chocobo's Mysterious Dungeon, we have a number of themes from Chocobo Racing. Not to be confused with Chocobo GP, because that was a relatively new game that unfortunately decided to go the way of the dodo. And but this one is called Dash de Chocobo.
Yeah, I want to say this was a PlayStation era game. Let's see. Yep.
Love it.
PS1.
And I think Chocobo GP kind of was like a successor to this.
Yeah. This one was kind of a Mario Kart-ish style game.
Yeah, like Chocobo GP.
Yep.
They're really diving into some of the zaniness on this one.
Yep.
Yeah, they got the Epic Sax Man on here. But this is very 90s.
Yeah.
Very 90s.
It was released in 1999.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely well into the style of.
Continuing on our Chocobo Racing themes, we have your Choose a Chocobo theme. So this is on the character select screen, basically.
Yep.
And very, very electronica style, you know?
Yeah. This is just weird.
It's very zany.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that kind of like cartoon zaniness feel to it. It's also a screen that typically you wouldn't necessarily be sitting on terribly long.
It's only a 50-second little track, and it just repeats and repeats and repeats while you're waiting to choose your character.
Yeah.
And once you choose your Chocobo, then you have the race theme, or the Chocobo theme.
So I'm guessing each of the racers has their own theme. I don't know if this necessarily had a lot of the plot or story sequences like you saw in some of the later ones, but I could imagine, again, each character getting like their own theme for story scenes involving them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this would have played, to be honest with you. Like I said, this is not a game that I played either.
Yeah. Like, it kind of
has
the feel of like... Some of these weren't
released in the US either, I don't think.
Chocobo Racing was, but it was not one that made it especially big.
Yeah, I mean, because when I remember in 99, 2000, was, because 99 would have been Final Fantasy 8. And 2000 was Final Fantasy 9. And I don't recall anything in between those as far as a Final Fantasy, game or in that aspect, but...
Chrono Cross was also that year.
Okay. Square was very busy.
Yep, I do remember, like, they had an entire promotion of, like, their Summer of Adventure or something like that, and they had Chrono Cross, I want to say Threads of Fate. There was another game. But yeah, I remember there's like a big promo for it. I was very hyped for a lot of the games.
And didn't the Bouncer come out about that time too, or Vagrant Story?
A Vagrant Story was a little bit earlier, I want to say.
I think it was the Bouncer that might have come out because that was another Square game that came out for the PS2. Which I know that came out after 9, but before 10. I think. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, this next game that we're going to get some Chocobo themes from is one I have definitely never heard of, and I believe was Japanese only.
No, you have? It's just, it was under a very different name in the US because I remember and I played the hell out of it.
Okay.
The Japanese name is Chocobo to Maho no Ehan, but we knew it better as, what was the exact thing on it?
Okay.
I want to make sure I get it right. Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo's Dungeon.
See,
this was a game.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, it was a game on one of the Nintendo DS, though it did later get brought out for some of the other ones. But I remember it as a DS game where Chocobo, you were guiding Chocobo through various dungeon and world things based on fairy tales that were given a Chocobo twist.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and listen to our first one. Chocobo series theme song. This definitely seems like a simplified version of a Chocobo theme.
Yep. And I mean,
like, this would be very similar to the one from 4, I think, or 3.
Yeah, I mean, like, this one, as I said, like, it was Final Fantasy Fables. This was based around a storybook of so it had a little bit more like a childlike aspect to it. The storybook in question is a magical one that allows Chocobo to enter the stories.
Of course.
I remember one of the late fights of the game had an absolutely banging remix of Battle on the Big Bridge.
I bet. We might actually get it. There's a lot of themes from this game on this disc. All right, so that was the theme. Our next one is, let me make sure I'm on the right spot. This is Move de Chocobo. Odekake Chocobo Original Arrange is what the title of this, or the original arrangement of this song.
Yep. Yeah, I believe this is where, like, bad stuff was happening and you're trying to escape from it, so move, de Chocobo.
Marvelous will be having a field day with me on my mispronunciations of these. Seriously. You'd be like, what? You don't know what this move, this Odekake Chocobo, blah, 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 blah.
All the minor chords. All the minor chords.
And once we have Move de Chocobo, we move on to March de Chocobo.
I've got another take on a march. This one, again, it's a little happier and lighter and fluffier, but it's got that regimented feel to it like we saw with our other marches.
Here's your oompa.
Left, right.
Oompa.
Left,
oompa.
left,
oompa.
right, left, right.
This says a little bit of oompa feel for you too.
Guess. Ah, what a fun series that was. I wonder if I still have my copy somewhere.
I wonder if this one we'll ever see on the Virtual Console.
Possibly. There were several of them in the series, but I believe only the first one was released in the US.
Excuse me. No, this is kind of cute. So after March de Chocobo, our next theme is called Retro de Chocobo.
It's very purposefully invoking those old styles.
This is 100% chiptune.
Yep. Was this around when chiptunes were getting big?
Probably.
Like, there's a time where they really took off.
Chiptunes, I want to say, were kind of in the mid 20 teens. This disc came out in 2013.
Yeah. The game itself was released in 2007.
Funny. Now that we think about this disc is 10 years old now.
Weird.
Because TGS is in 2 weeks. And this was released as a 2013 TGS.
It's strange to think of these things as like historical artifacts in some ways, though the industry does move quickly.
Indeed it does. And then now we have Battle de Chocobo.
You can hear snatches of it.
Yep. It's there. It's a little bit of a stretch, though. This one, actually, I am not enjoying as much, to be honest with you. It seems very overly discordant for discordant's sake.
It fit in the game, but there was some pretty wild shit going on in that game.
Okay.
I mean, it honestly feels like the type of thing that, like, maybe you drop some acid and play it.
I think I'll pass then.
Probably for the best. But yes, I do recall there being some reasonably trippy things going on. Other dimensional monsters, Chocobo being drawn into these strange fairy tale worlds.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. So this next one is called The Witch, the Girl, and the Five Heroes.
And all right, that I think is from one of the games in the series that did not get released here.
This one, some choices were made in the instrumentation.
It feels like something that you would hear on a circus calliope, but like at a creepy circus.
Yeah, like it's just slightly out of tune. And that might be purposeful because of where this particular theme is set in the game. Maybe it is a creepy circus.
The clowns are probably not going to kill you. Probably. Yeah, this is definitely laying on the creepy.
Yeah,
Man, now I wonder what the hell was happening in this game.
It's kind of going back and forth between creepy and a little bit more heroic. Like those.
Yeah. Like as the party marshals their forces. Yeah, it's hard to say. I really want to know what's going on in this one now. I'm going to look this up afterwards.
It's kind of fun what listening to a couple of songs will do to try and drag you into something, huh?
I played through the first one all the way. I even did all the little side quests and other bonus content and the like. And I knew there had been other ones, but I'd never really given that much thought as to what was in them. And now I really need to know.
Okay, we are down to our last couple of songs here. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next one. This one is from, it's called Chip de Chocobo from Final Fantasy SQ Chips Preview Mini Album is where this one comes from.
Oh, this is the chiptune time.
They went deep on chiptune. This is a little on the rough side of chiptunes.
Yep. This was, so SQ Chips was an album from their arrangement series featuring music arranged in 8-bit variations.
Okay.
There was also, in addition to Final Fantasy series, they had Einhander, Chrono Trigger, Xenogears, Bahamut Lagoon, Brave Fencer, Musashi.
Oh, wow.
Yep, just a lot. And what was really, Masayoshi Soken was one of the people who worked on this.
Okay.
And it was 2011 was the release for that.
This almost sounds glitchy.
I mean, the chiptune aesthetic, there's a lot of stuff with, especially once you get into like circuit bending type stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Basically taking a lot of these things done with chips and like maybe connecting stuff to create short circuits that would change the sound in various stylized ways. There's a lot of it was very much experimenting with things, accidentally finding stuff. There's a lot of fascinating stuff about the aesthetic.
But the things in the background, if you listen to it, there's kind of glitchiness.
Yep. This was a
like right here.
fairly common aspect of the thing. Definitely a bit weird, was not for everyone, had a lot of detractors, but the people who liked it were really into it. It was experimental.
I will say, when it comes to chiptune style, I am more of a purist, and I like the original 8-bit styles versus adding in the kind of the little digital glitches and the little. That's the only way I can describe them, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, some of it is a purposefully invoking this glitch aesthetic thing, like kind of the accidental discovery of this certain aspect to it. Like, it's very intentional, but again, not for everyone. I did fun, but I like that meta bullshit.
I mean, I can see where people would enjoy this, and I think overall it has a pleasing sound. But it, like I said, some of the additions on there, it was a choice.
It is definitely more my kind of thing.
But this next one is definitely my kind of thing. And I've heard this played live at Distant Worlds, and it is beautiful. This is the Chocobo Medley 2012 from Distant Worlds. So please enjoy this. This is a 5.5, almost 6 minutes. Because it goes through a number of Final Fantasies.
This is full live orchestra.
If you haven't listened to a Distant Worlds album or gone to see a Distant Worlds performance, please do. It is worth every penny you spend on the album or to see on the ticket to see the show.
I've been reading a manga and watching an anime about making art, and they kind of make a similar point, like looking at photographs or things like that of artwork often loses something over seeing it in person. Like the picture of it can't necessarily capture how the color actually looks or how light plays off of it. For a lot of stuff like this, like the reproductions are a good way, or things like that are a good way to get across the general thing of it. But there is an impact to experiencing it in person. Especially
when you're talking about physical arts, if you look at some of the older styles of art with oil paintings, where the brush strokes are actually a part of the artwork, not just what the image is. And you kind of lose some of that when a picture is taken of it, so yeah.
Yeah, I remember one very famous one where one of the things that's remarkable about it is that it's like an absurdly large wall-sized painting where you can't see any brush strokes. I have to imagine that gets a reaction from the entire concert hall.
It does. Everybody out in the audience goes with them. And they do something similar to this at the A New World Final Fantasy as well, which is the smaller chamber orchestra version of it. So Nick Nar has gone to see both of these with me, and it was such a great time, wasn't it?
I do like when they can add a little bit of a participatory aspect to it. It turns it from a thing where the audience is removed and observers to hey, this is an artistic thing that we are art is kind of this conversation between the creator and the observer, and really drawing the observer in is not.
Just the different takes on the different themes played live, one after the other. I think you have an idea which one this is. O, C, O, B, O, H, O, C, O, B, O. I was bummed when the Choco Cheer team, yes, exactly, playing it live at Distant Worlds. I was slightly bummed when the latest round of Distant World concerts didn't make it into Minneapolis. So I'm hoping they come back soon, because it's been 4 years, I think.
I mean, to be fair,
4.5 years.
A couple of those years don't really count.
Yeah, but still, we've had a New World here. They were here last year.
Huh.
Or no, 2 years ago.
I'd love if it would be if it was something that orchestras and others could choose to do without necessarily having to be a Square Enix produced thing. But I also get control over their IP and all that.
Absolutely.
Get it. I just want more stuff to be in the public domain. Return the art to the people.
Like I said, this is just too good to stop playing, because it's all it's different themes. It's just the seats were small at the theater we saw this at, but I didn't care. I had an amazing time.
Yeah, good art and performance just draws you in. And especially if it's a subject that you're familiar with, that you already have these associations with, and then you get these different interpretations on it.
All right. And now I don't know what there's one final track on here that's 4 seconds. Let's see what it is.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
Good job, whoever slipped that in there. Oh.
That is Compi de Chocobo. If you find a copy of it somewhere in an anime store, at a convention, if you see it online, pick it up. It's really good.
If you find it on the street and there's a fishing line attached to it and a big unmarked white van nearby, you know what? Take that chance.
Go for it. You might make a new friend and get a CD out of it, right? No.
Exactly. It'll be fine. You probably don't need both your kidneys, and you'll get that Chocobo music.
And maybe some candy.
You don't need both your kidneys.
Do you need both your kidneys?
I believe you actually can get by with just one.
Yeah, you actually can. But
there we go then.
Anyway.
So kidney for cool Chocobo music sounds like a winning trade to me.
Anyway.
Please do not take life advice from Seyrr.
No, that is a bad idea. Seyrr is a shit poster.
And how?
So we've got another episode coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to try and figure out what we're going to talk about there. But it was nice to get back into some music again and just have a little bit of fun with it. You know, with things, the news had slowed down a little bit, you know, over the last month, but now it's really ramping up again. And we've got a lot of things to look forward to. I'm assuming we're going to probably hear some news about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at TGS. There's a good chance we might, learn about when we're going to get a release on the DLC for Final Fantasy 16. We got that live letter coming up. It's going to be a good time. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to look forward to in Final Fantasy world. So
we have all of those various things that those leakers have hinted about that we might get confirmation or clarification on.
Yep. Exactly. Plus, like I said, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis is available on mobile right now. So if you want to give that a try and see how the how the mobile version of Final Fantasy VII storyline plays out, and it is all the storylines. See how it goes.
Yeah. I've got a lot of mobile games at the moment, so if any of you all want to take that on and let me know how it is and if I should spend my time on it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I might jump into it here shortly to see how it's going. Like I said, I played the demo or the beta a bit, and I think I can still. I'd probably just have to update my app on my phone, and it will probably work just fine. Anything else you want to talk about, Sarah, before we end this?
Oh.
Anything you want to reminisce on? Maybe take a few moments to reminisce on the last year? Since I kind of talked about it, I didn't give you a chance to.
No worries. I mean, like the last 8 years, it's wild. I honestly did not think that it would go on this long and that I would be still here talking with you all every other week.
Ish.
Pretty much just opining on whatever it is that happens across my mind about the topic. Most of my stuff is unscripted. You just get my reactions in the moment, and you all seem to be cool with it. So,
Isn't
not
that
messing
weird?
with that formula.
I mean,
it is weird.
Okay, when
I have opinions. I will happily fire hose them at anyone who looks like they might be interested.
Oh my!
Usually at some point they ask me to dial it down a notch, but you all keep coming back for more. That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with it. I'm not going to question it, but it's weird.
I mean, when I broached this subject with Seyrr 8 years ago about doing a podcast, I think he looked at me like I was crazy. I didn't literally see his face when I asked him about it, but I have a feeling that initially his jaw dropped. He was like, "What? What are you talking about? You want me to talk about a video game for other people?"
Yeah,
it was
not
do it. We'll see what
quite
happens.
jaw-dropping.
No,
it was not quite jaw-dropping, but there was some amount of like, I am not sure why specifically he wants me to do this. He clearly has some idea in mind that, you know what, that's his thing. I'm just going to talk about stuff as I see fit, and it'll be fine. And if it's not, whatevs. And then it turned out to actually be fine, and I don't know how I feel about that.
And we're still doing this. We've done almost 200 episodes over the last 8 years, and I don't know how to properly express this, that we're so thankful for the opportunity to continue to do this and have you guys actually listen to and enjoy what we're talking about. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the last year. Thank you for the last 8 years. The love, the support, the when things have been great, when things have not been great, you guys have been here for us, and you've continued as we've changed and evolved and went from a strictly Final Fantasy XIV show to then talking about other Final Fantasy games. When we delved into the music, when we started talking about, all these other things, it's really been a ride. And I'm glad you guys have stuck with us and let us continue to do this. So that's just me saying thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all of you. All right. And I think with that, we're going to go ahead and do it. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I think Stitcher is basically done now. So if you're following us on Stitcher, please choose another podcatcher because they're going to be stopping, I think, on the 17th or something like that of this month. Just an FYI. But if possible, leave us a rating or review because it helps other people to find our show and lets us know how we're doing. And if you really dig the show, you can consider subscribing to us here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio when we do this live, and you'll get access to a number of subscriber-only emotes and badges. Or you can go out to patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio and support us like our benevolent overlord Roy Fenrir, our secret of Nevermore Ravenheart, or our resident slacker Nick Nar. They support us in a very special way, so thank you very much for all of that heartfelt support. And all proceeds go towards growing the show, cover things like hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade equipment, as well as do some fun things like contests and giveaways. We'll maybe try and think of something. I know I've been really talking about ideas, but I just haven't been able to think of anything lately. If you have thoughts, you can email us podcast@phoenixstarradio.com and let us know what your thoughts are. If you want to listen to our backlog of podcasts, you can go out to phoenixstarradio.com and everything is listed out there. As well as a few articles from Seyrr about some lore stuff.
Old lore stuff. One of these days I want to write some more of those.
We'll figure that out. But for right now, that's just the best way to get in touch, get our all of our links to our social medias and things like that. We don't use social media much anymore because, well, Twitter is a joke and nothing has really come up to take its place yet. So let's hang out on Discord. So you can find. Go ahead.
I know that technically it's X, but Twitter is like the one thing I feel okay dead naming.
Yeah, but I just don't
I'm
use
allowed
Twitter.
to say that, right?
I just don't see going with.
Okay, wait, no,
X. Go ahead.
Two things: Twitter and Mr. Pibb. It's been called Pibb Extra for like over a decade at this point.
It's Mr. Pibb.
It's Mr. Pibb, god damn it.
Mr. Pibb and Twitter.
Everything else, name changes should be respected. Those two things I will dead name and feel no shame.
Yep. Marvelous is Marvelous. Callie is Callie. X is Twitter. Respect our friends. Fuck the corporate world, biatch.
Something like that.
Thank you, Afro Man, for those wonderful lyrics. Anyway, Discord is the best place to find us. I sent a link to our Discord. You can also go to phoenixstarradio.com and there's a link to our Discord there too. Do you have any shout outs, Mr. Seyrr? You've only had a month to think about them.
Okay, and I spent a lot of that month playing Mahjong, let me tell you.
So shout out to the Mahjong community?
Sure, shout out to the Mahjong community.
Or fuck you, Mahjong community. Which one is it? I want to...
Say again?
Is it thank you or fuck you to the Mahjong community?
It's largely thank you. I've fallen in with the Ron crowd, and I'm okay with that. And I love that stupid pun every time. Oh, so thank you, Mahjong players, for clicking tiles and never giving me a 5-pin when I needed. I was one thing away from completing that hand, and it was a gorgeous hand, and you had to hold them all until the other guy called Sumo. What the hell? But you're great.
Gesundheit.
I have a lot of feelings about Mahjong.
Oh, poor Sarah's just dying now.
Look,
did somebody
tile
poison your
goes
tea?
click, tile goes click, tile goes clack. Everything is okay. Tile goes click, tile doesn't go clack. You worry for a moment that maybe you just put down the thing that someone else needs to complete their hand. Your heart rate spikes. It is like the perfect before bed activity. As always, do not listen to my advice. It is terrible advice. But so yes, big shout out to the Mahjong community. Shout out to you, Klauss, for God, 8 years. That's still weird. 8 years. And to all of our faithful listeners, those who I see in the chat today, Nick, Nar, and Aurori are up to their usual shenanigans. I also see Tris Marigold.
Yep.
Anyone else? And some folks who are staying nice and quiet and lurking. And you know what? That's cool too. Big shout out to all of you who are here with us today, who join us any of our weeks or join us in spirit by downloading the podcast. You all are great. At this point, I pretty much do it all for you. Like, at first it was for my own amusement, but at this point, no, I like doing stuff for you. You're great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being.
And as long as you're still having fun doing it, that's the important part.
Pretty much.
All right. Excellent. Me, I want to shout out my girlfriend. It's still her birthday week, so happy birthday. We had an amazing, we had a fun time, even though the weather was horrible. You know, as far as, you know, it just oppressively hot, but it was still a good time, and we made the best of it. Shout out to Seyrr for continuing to be with me and this podcast for the last 8 years. I mean, you could have easily just said, screw you guys, I'm going home. But you're still here. You're still hanging out. We're still putting out our shit and having a good time doing it. Shout out.
We're talking shit and it's a hit.
Shout out to our Patreon supporters. We mentioned your names many, many times, but like I said, your support literally is helping us to keep this going every week. Nick Nar, Rory, Tibient, you were supported for a very long time. Ravenheart, Mika, Remix, everybody who's supported us out there and helped, you know, us to keep going. Those of you who support us on Twitch as Twitch subs, Nick Nar, some weird guy named Klauss who keeps giving his Prime sub to this podcast. Like I said, it's always very helpful. And those of you who listen on the podcast and keep us doing this, thank you. We've been doing this for 8 years. We're going to keep doing it for as long as we can. So thank you so much for all of your support. And like I said, Discord, really the best place to find us. It's a fun community that we have there. Great vibe, and I strongly suggest that you check it out if you have not yet.
I'll teach you how to play Mahjong. It'll be great and terrible.
All right. So for my co-host, Seyrr Timono, I'm Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for 8 years of this podcast. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.